Good afternoon, Kerry. How are we going?
I'm good, thanks, Greg. How are you?
Good. This is going to be really interesting. Um, this actually, I'm recording for Kerry's business, right? Um, the idea of this is actually just to have a chat for 45 minutes about the changes she's made and what she sees in businesses that people are sort of missing and why it's important to have certain services to have a successful business these days. And so much has changed over the last. I remember when I was start back in the bank when I was 17.
Mm.
Um, the bank manager used to be the one to go to, used to be the go-to person for everything, right? That's just dissolved because banks don't give a shit about you anymore, really. Um, and so it's really fall into the bookkeeping accounts areas to sort of start to fill that void in some way. So Gary, tell us a little about, about people already know who you are, but why do you do what you
Why
do?
do I
And
do what I do?
yeah, how
Oh,
did you get into it to start with?
getting into it to start with. So I was, when you're allowed to be a little girl Friday, you're allowed to call yourself a girl Friday, and started to work for a construction company. And it was before computers. So it was a
Oh,
little while
legends.
ago, and the ledgers were on big bits of paper. So you had your Excel sheets on very big A3 sort of sheets where we would do job costing and stuff like that. I then did my schooling through night school and got my associate diploma in accounting, all that sort of stuff. Worked in the bank, similar to you. So
Yeah.
worked in Westpac,
Yeah.
but knew that I was I went to Westpac after the construction company. Worked for them for a few years, did my study in accounting, always liked numbers at school.
Yeah.
So it just became something. Don't know really why I didn't go the full path of as being an accountant, but I think I worked in private enterprise with companies and always was in that assistant finance sort of role where you were looking after the accounts, working quite closely with the owner of the business. And it just became that sort of evolved into a role where the government was bringing out GST. A couple of accountants that I worked
Yeah.
with said, get on board, do this stuff. So I registered. I happened to be pregnant with my first child, with Zane, and it just sort of timed really well where I took some maternity leave, was called back because they couldn't actually get anybody to do the role. But at the same point, I had 3 or 4 people that I'd worked for before that approached me and said, do you know about this GST? So I said, I'm a registered BAS agent, just had Zane. My hubby ended up with reverse roles. He became a Mr. Mum. I went back to work full time, was able to work from home as well as work out on site. And it just sort of evolved from there. So, yeah, that's sort of where we came. And then I started off just obviously
Yeah.
as a sole trader, like a lot of people, started fairly small. About
Yeah.
6 years became a company. I started employing and have a bit of a team now and a chartered accountant included. And yeah, we're helping clients, working with their numbers. There's still a lot of it to evolve in terms of just that advisory, and we've just implemented Spotlight reporting. So the whole change from where data entry, that bookkeeping was. And I think also there's a in, there's like an understanding out there that with Xero, with AI, and with a lot of things, the bookkeeper's role was pretty much non-existent. Obviously, banks are now bringing out bookkeeping arms and stuff, but really the compliance side and what we have to do, it's the actual role is massive now. So, so, so it's not just
Yeah,
that
help the role.
linking.
AI is going
Yeah,
to help the
yeah.
role, right? Yeah.
It's really
Yeah.
interesting that every time people put out there and get quite scared about the role disappearing. And I think you do definitely have to keep up with the trends. Like, you need to know
You do.
the latest packages. You need to be knowing what AI is and implementing that. And it
Yeah.
might mean that we don't have to put on 2 staff because AI is going to be interpreting some of that data for us. But I think for us as humans, we like to have a conversation. We like to have a bit of a chat. It's important to catch up. My clients, I don't get to see them all in person because obviously we work remotely and it just seems to be like that. But we do catch up on Teams. I'm on the phone all the time. So it's just the world's changed a lot. But I think the actual compliance and the understanding and what people want for it, business owners, it's just you've got to have someone there to help you out.
You do.
and
So
just
what?
make those numbers simple.
Yeah. So what are the main struggles that you sort of see in small and medium-sized businesses these days, like especially the people who run it themselves and they're doing everything. They're doing the marketing, the accounts,
Yeah.
the operations manager, the accounts receivable, accounts payable, the cleaner, all
They're
that kind of
doing
stuff.
everything. They're
Yeah.
doing everything. And then they're taking it home with them as well, so they're sitting there, they're doing all of it. And I think for those ones that come to us, some of the biggest issues for sole traders is putting aside that GST, the pay as you go. They might employ, they don't necessarily comprehend what all the compliance is with Fair Work laws now. Single touch payroll, so your payroll is accessible, you're reporting live to the ATO, they know what your figures are for pay as you go. So people might have underreported in the past, made up at the end. People do a lot of different things, but with how things are now, it's live reporting. You've got to report on the day of the pay event. It's just, there's just no real opportunity for that. And there's a lot of onus on the owners. And some of them don't know till they get that letter from the ATO or that super, that deadline really is a hard deadline, and there's
Yeah.
interest and penalties. So we do SGC guarantee statements for some clients that don't meet their compliancy. Sometimes that's us telling them, look, this is due, and sometimes it's a back audit where the ATO have picked things up.
Yeah.
But a lot of it's cash flow, like really for small business, depending on the industry they're in, a lot of them govern by themselves by what's in the bank, not
Yeah.
necessarily how their business is performing. So it can be a good indication of, that you're going all right. You might have money in the bank, but really depending on where that money is coming from or going, or what's forecasted to pay out, it's not necessarily the best indicator for how your business is performing.
Yeah. And I mean, it's also a multifaceted, multi-complex role too, because running a business is not also just figures and customers and clients. If you're in a space where things aren't going well, this is where you come in very, very, very as a you're not just a bookkeeper,
No,
you're part of the asset, you're part of the family, you're part of the success of the business. And business is sort of seen as a way is just like this is just not an outsourced service. So this is why you're different, right? You're just not an
yeah,
outsourced service to do
no,
bookkeeping. You're actually in there with them because what you sort of do is and the part about mindset and stress and all that stuff and how that affects people's performance. And if you've got a stressful business, you've got a stressful relationship,
that's right.
right? You've got so many other things going on there, which doesn't allow you to perform in your business as an optimal thing. And what you guys do is actually help alleviate a lot of that financial stress in businesses because you have the expertise and you can go, well, okay, let's do this, do this, do this, do this. We can help you with this, we help you with this, we help you with this. And then all of a sudden, they can go,
That's
I
right.
can breathe a
That's
bit.
right. That's right.
And this is
They
probably where
do.
that advisory level starts to come in. You just people just start thinking we're just not a bookkeeping service. We're actually
No.
something that takes a very vital part of a business and we nurture it. And
Yeah.
I want to say something probably controversial here,
Yeah.
right? And is that a lot of people are outsourcing to India or Malaysia or
Yeah.
Singapore or Philippines like these days. I've seen people where they've outsourced that stuff to someone in Malaysia and you've got 60 people accessing your zero thing and
Mm.
nobody knows what's going on, right? Because it's all cheap labor.
No.
They have
No,
no
that's right.
real interest in your business. They're
No.
just doing a simple task. And this is where what sets businesses that are successful apart
Yeah.
from businesses that aren't successful. The ones who aren't
Yeah.
successful go to the cheapest,
Yeah.
the way that they want to do it all. They'll see it as a purely as just an expense, and they'll go and get the cheapest person to go and do their thing. But in the end, it costs them more in the
Cost
end
more. That's right.
because they got people doing things that don't know their business. It's just a task. They don't know what's going on.
Mm.
They're paid $2 an hour. And yeah, that may be cheap and great. Yeah, I'm getting a person, a VA for $2 an hour, but it's chaos, isn't it?
It is. It is. Yeah, we've just recently done a clean up for a client, started about 2.5 months ago, and similar thing. Yeah, well, they had several people in their zero file. They didn't have a consistent person that was responsible for the file or the data, so they were getting asked the same questions every fortnight too when it came to payroll or processing. And we've taken it over, and they just love us for it. So everything's sort of working. I do only employ locally. I have tried outsourcing, but it doesn't work for me. And we just made that conscious decision that for us as a company, we're going to pay a bit extra. Obviously, the client will pay a bit extra. It's all remote. They're based here in Australia. Actually, my staff are based in Melbourne, but it's just, for us and our business model, that's just the way it's going to work.
One of your clients can ring, like Karen rings out and go, "Hey, Karen, oh, hey, Greg, how you going? Yeah, I've got that. I know about this, I know about that," rather than speaking to someone who's got no clue, no idea, right? And
that's right.
People will, you pay for good shit, but it saves you time, it saves you money. And what you tend to do is that you then put profit back into the business because you're allowing the business owners to do what they should be doing, which is run the business.
That's right.
So
look, sometimes they
forget
that. That's right. And they lose sight of that too, even to the point where they don't actually know what their sales are or where their market is, but they don't also have time to think about that. The business might have evolved, it might have changed. They might now be in more of a management sort of role where that person that was doing all that seeking of business isn't there anymore, and now the owner has to step up into that sort of role, but also is looking after all the data entry, the finance, booking in jobs, doing whatever it might be that they have to do, and just help in that background. And sometimes it can just be a chat, as you say. They can ring myself, they might ring Karen, they might ring whoever is working on their file, but they can reach out, make a call. I have a client that touches base with me once a week, just lets me know how he's doing. Like, I think for him it's a little bit of a therapy session. And
exactly.
And sometimes I think as a lot of bookkeepers and BAS agents out there, you do end up knowing your clients intimately and really well. And you've gone through, especially for some of my clients, I've had them for a really long time. You've gone through where they might have lost parents, or they might have had babies, or they've got grandchildren. And it's that personal, relationship that you start sort of build with the clients. For some, it can be that they want to keep things at arm's length because obviously we know all about their business, and they don't necessarily want that link and understanding, and that's fine too. We just work out, for us, it's just trying to get their business operating the best it can. We obviously have clients that still want to do their own thing. They know that they've got to pay the ATO. They know that money's not theirs, but they still go and spend it before BAS time. So that's always, a bit of juggling and managing to deal with, but we can only do what we do and give them the best support and advice and say, look, this is what's going to be due. Probably one of the big things that we're doing is moving into that advisory sort of space a bit more with the help of Spotlight reporting, and having Karen as a chartered accountant on board. Then we can really give that advice and support the client to a higher level, and really get them understanding their numbers and focus on whatever it is they want to do. So some it might be looking at what their past revenue was, or some it might be lowering their costs, or where can they get their products from, or what is their break-even point, what is their actual labour cost. They might be a labour-intense business and have 10 admin staff that don't make any billable hours, but what's their rate going to have to be to cover everybody plus the overheads of the business? So it's just, for each business it's slightly different of what they want out of it. So it's just us helping them get to their pass and understanding their numbers to do what they do best, and let us do what we love to do.
So on that, why, bookkeeping is one part, but why is advisory so beneficial to a business? I think it doesn't have to be costly, right? I think you've got a couple of clients on like $2,000 a quarter or something, like $3,000 a quarter, right? It's not a big expense, right? But the stuff you get from that is massive, right? Because I think there's also, we'll talk about this in a second, a case study where you basically, this is phenomenal, right? Because, it's a really good story about how one of your people actually employed you as an advisory role, and within 4 hours you made them $20,000. I think that's great.
4 days. 4 days.
4 days, right? 4 days. 4 hours, 4 days.
Oh no. It was still pretty phenomenal.
4 days, you made them $20,000, right? Purely, and it's the fraction of the cost. So it was
through one conversation, and Karen and I attended. And look, this client I do catch up with regularly on a fortnightly basis. We catch up, take we sort of have some measurable goals in place, and we were talking to him about increasing revenue or what his costs might be. And it just came to a point we were just talking about, variation on work. He's in the construction field, and he said, "Oh, I don't charge for variations. I just mark my job up." We went, "What do you mean you don't charge variations? How do you know what that's worth?" So the next week he went out, and he actually the previous 2 weeks had completed some work that he wasn't going to charge for. Spoke to both project managers, felt a little bit uncomfortable, as we all do when you're going into a space where you haven't really gone before. And the project managers came to the site, walked through, signed off, and he got billable, chargeable hours of 25 grand, and had that invoice done back in his bank in about 3 weeks that he wouldn't have not had that conversation. I mean, that's not going to happen all the time, but it was, something that he hadn't thought of would be, make that much difference to his business.
Or even got conversations like you said there, you probably got clients there that have a big outstanding debtors thing. Just even an employee would say, right, I've got 100 grand in debtors that I don't want to ring. Really don't want to. So I want to have a relationship with him. I'm not handing him all the time. Gary, can you get one of your guys to go and just reduce this list down and let's just say, reduce it by 50%, right? That's still 50 grand that you wouldn't have normally, right? And you guys, that's the thing is that just if you don't like doing it, here's someone to go and do it for you who understands your business.
Yeah, well, that's what a client said to me yesterday. We went through the list, and we go through the list sort of every 3 or 4 weeks before the end of month, especially. His thing is he does quite a lot of commercial work and has very good relationships with them. But the accounts people don't seem to pay him, he's got some that are 3 or 4 months. And I'm going, what's going on with these ones? And some of them I've touched base with, but I haven't been heavily involved because he's on it. And he said, nah, it's time that you look after it. So we have done it before for him where we've just tidied it up. And because he's got us dedicated to call, be responsive, just give them someone to contact back, what's going on. Sometimes it might be that they don't have the invoice. Sometimes it'll be the project manager's changed or the site manager's changed or whatever. They haven't signed off. So we just get that followed up. And pretty much within really a couple of weeks, that whole dynamic has changed. And we've just done it with another client as well. And 60% of that's in. Some of it might be that there's duplicates and they've been invoiced or there's some, errors as well. But we've got, 70 to 80% of that with an answer, knowing when the funds are coming in. And that's a huge, significant change. Like when you go to a client and say, you got 50 grand here and we're going to pay some bills and we got some more invoices here, but let's collect that.
Yeah.
Focus on the collection, pay us a bit more to do that work.
Yeah.
You don't have to worry about fitting it in and cooling when you're doing your billable work. So you go work on your sales.
It's they got that right. So exactly. So they pay you 5 grand to get it.
Yeah.
Yeah. If they pay you 5 grand to get 100 grand worth of debt in.
Yeah.
It's really not a cost because this people need to realise is that you're not calling, right? So not you, but the business owner, just say I'm a business owner. Yeah. Let's say I charge myself out $250 an hour.
Yeah.
Right. And I've got 100 debtors right, at 10, whatever it is. I'm not spending time chasing these people. I'm not being stressed out chasing these people. So the 5 grand to make that number up to invest in you to get those debtors, you're actually ahead of the game because you're actually making money because you're seeing people and you're not doing the shit you shouldn't be doing. Right. That's the part. I love about what you're doing and the voluntary part is you're just going, where are your pain points in your business right now? Let us help you out. And it's a bespoke service. Like it's not one size fits all. Like you go and we've heard the horror stories of some other advisors out there that it just wastes people's time and talk about revenue and there's some horror stories.
There's no action. That's right. So I think for us, it's still coming back to doing what we do and loving what we do, but it's also helping the client in whatever capacity they want. So some of them, it might be they've got regular monthly or fortnightly invoicing, but they keep missing the deadline. So when they miss the deadline, which might be a Friday, and if you don't get it by that Friday, 4:00, you don't get paid for that fortnight, which means they're not going to get any money for a month now. So we've got some where we just either email, we have them on a like our Outlook reminder saying, just a reminder, it's the 14th of the month, you're going to do your invoice because you need to get that in because obviously your cutoff is coming up.
Yep.
And some of that turns into us actually taking over the invoicing, or it's just that trigger point of just, yep, can you send us a reminder and I'll get it done. So it just depends too, because you can also get that where the wife might be doing the books, helping the husband, but the wife doesn't necessarily always want to help with the books, but it's doing it because, and vice versa, the husband might be helping the wife in the business. So, but it's sort of like causing a conflict that doesn't have to be there. And if we take it off, like the efficiency and systems that we have can just, while they'll pay for the service, it's still not at, because sometimes I think people go, I spend 8 hours on the weekend doing this stuff. So then they go 8 hours, they're going to pay me 8 hours. The difference is with the software and systems that we use, their 8 hours might be us doing it in an hour. It might be us doing it in a couple of hours. Like, I don't know. But because that's what we do, we can do it that bit more efficiently.
And you mentioned something very important there. Is the fact is there's one thing you cannot get back as a human being. Time.
We can't get back time,
The most precious thing apart from your relationship and the people that you care about.
Yeah.
The most important thing you have is time, and you cannot get that back. And you may think, and you see all these business out here, I'm stressed. Look, stress is another conversation. You completely screws up everything.
We can all be on revved up alert all the time, and you're not going to function. You just don't function.
You don't. And if you're just stressed, like if you know what, I know what I'd rather be doing. Taking my kids to watch Richmond and lose to Carlton on the weekend.
Yay, we're Carlton.
For poor kids and Richmond supporters. Then doing invoices.
Yeah, that's right. And I think too, when you've got family, like my boys are 20, 25 and 21. The youngest one's about 22, and 25-year-old is off travelling around the world at the moment, off in Greece and London and stuff. But when you reflect back, I want more time with, I want them as, my screensaver is them as young, 2-year-old, 5-year-old. Like, it's that time I think is precious. And if people can get some of that family connection, go out for dinner with your partner, have some time with your children, that you can actually just sit there and play or watch a show with them or just get involved, even in those hard times with teenagers where they don't even want to talk to you. But you can go sit in their room and just go, I'm here. But you don't, when you're reactive and catching up on work and overloaded and the weight of the world of running a business is on your shoulders, you can't do that because you're just going to want to get out that next lot of invoicing. Correct. Or you know that tomorrow you've got to go and pay that bill, and how's the money going to come in because such and such hasn't paid you yet.
Correct.
But you want to have some quality time because that's what life's about.
And what I love about what you do as an advisory role is one of the first questions you ask a client is not about what's happening. It's more about the first question is, why are you in business?
Yeah.
Tell me why you do this job.
Yeah.
It's a whole different range of things. And then it's like, well, why is this important for you?
Yeah. And why don't you got into business? Yeah. Yeah.
Because it's a big question for people that sometimes don't ask themselves. So you kind of think, well, I am doing this for my family, but what, you're not present with them. There's no point, right? It's great. I've got a 7-figure business, but I'm doing this for my family, but then you've got no connection with your family. And it's like, well, let's take some of that stuff off so you can spend time with your family.
That's right.
Because there's no point having a business and a divorce.
I know. And I have to say, in my 20-odd years of being a BAS agent, I am having a first holiday where I'm taking the laptop but not actively opening it in July. So we are going away for my first. So I am trying to practice what I preach. It can be difficult, I know, but I am planning to have a holiday, and we have systems in place. So that's
the thing is that what you're doing is you are someone who speaks. You're vulnerable. You're open, all that kind of stuff. You're open about your own issues, all that stuff, and
that's right.
The thing is that you are a product of your own thing, right?
Like other people.
Well, you are. We meditate. That's how Kerry and I, we met in a meditation class. We both work for Westpac. Yeah.
We did, but we didn't meet at Westpac.
But we probably crossed paths. That's not safe.
Maybe.
The thing is that, coming back to why you're in business, you've even asked that question to yourself, which is, why we chatted, and you're doing what you're doing with me, with your clients.
Yeah.
And you see the value in it. That's the whole point.
I
You
think
can see
so.
the value in the
Yeah.
advisory stuff, that it's more than just balancing the books, right? This is what I think people need to understand when they employ someone like you. It's more than just balancing books. It's going back to the core of why are you doing what you're doing and what's important to you, and how do we actually achieve that? Because quite often it's not about making revenue or profit figures.
No.
It's more than just that, because I could show you businesses that make. I've got some friends who are freaking squillionaires, right? And they are miserable shits.
Yeah. I have
They are
the
so, because they are chasing that. Everything
Yeah.
about it and who they are is derived from how much money and profit I make. And they are so insecure. They are so scarcity mindset, and they have no relationships. Yet, you know what? They live in the external life of, I've got this, but they're miserable shits, right? Like, nobody's ever enough, right? And I'll show you someone who's probably doing, 800 or 900K. They are just living the dream.
Yeah.
Because they connect with why they are in business. That's what I like about you, is that you actually go that path of, what's really important to you.
Yeah, that's right. And it is. It's about knowing what makes them tick, I suppose. Why they got into business. Some of them, like myself, why I got into business 20 years ago is totally different to why I'm in business and stay in business now. So I think that's changed too for business owners and clients that I've had long term, is where they are now. Some of them will be going into pre-retirement mode. So it might be transitioning to one of their children, or it might be transitioning to someone who's a manager and they're going to part sell it. So all different things are sort of there, and why people stay in business.
Different things.
And it's not, and some of it's like, I'm not going to go and work a 9-to-5 job anymore. Like, they don't want to go into an office. They don't want to do that. And they love their job, but it's not working for them because they're trying to do everything, or they're trying to take on too much, or they don't really know their numbers. And a lot of it, we can do the bookkeeping and that takes up their time, but we don't get to always have that touch base and say, look, this is what we could do better. Let us take on a bit more. So it's all, running smoothly and better for them.
One of the biggest fears I find with business owners, and this is actually people across the board who I coach, is they ignore their financial situation. Especially if everything's going well, they're all over it. It's like, let's look at that charts. Let's look at this stuff. How good is this?
Right.
But a lot of people try to avoid that stuff, right? If I don't look at it and ignore it, it's not a problem, right? And that's where I suppose your spotlight reporting and stuff you're doing now is a really big beneficial thing to a business, that helping businesses be extremely successful requires something like that. And that's where AI comes in, right?
That's right.
Is that using some of these tools to go, right, we can give you bang, bang, bang. And it's like, this is a very valuable tool about producing a very successful business.
Yeah. And it can be that they might want to look at their product or what their break even is, as I've spoken about. It could be just about their cash flow. It could be keeping top of their bills, what percentage is their turnaround time on cash flow. Some of the things are available. So it's not like they're not available in Xero or Mile, but you have to still manually export it. Whereas these ones sync up to your software. Once you've synced them, then you just push the buttons and we have our templates in there, and it'll pull out those costs or income that are assigned to that report. So it's actually, and it's not, and in saving also the time. So it's also a real big time saver compared to spreadsheeting, exporting, and now analysing the actual spreadsheet. It's pulling it into that report and doing it all, with touch of a button nearly. Not quite that easy, but, it's all really in the setup and the structure. So that takes time. And having those initial discussions with the client to say, what do you want to report on? And look, we've also, as we've started to roll this out, is what the client wanted at the start ends up changing to when they see what the information they can get, their focus on where they want to focus is changing too, because it can be, we might have a dozen pages of reports, say, that it will quite easily have, and they'll go, oh, I didn't know it could do that. So then we start focusing on that, because that becomes quite an important area for them. So it's also being able to be adaptable to what that client wants is, always we've got to focus as well, because you can't sort of go in going, this is a report, this is the cost, and that's where it's going to be. And it might be that 3-month advisory turns into being 6 months because you're changing that path of wherever it might be.
Yeah. Yeah. And all of a sudden, it only goes from looking down into the business to looking this way.
To looking up.
And that's when you start to really make and people looking up and out and visionary stuff where you can go, right, I can start, this stuff. Because the worst thing a business owner can do, like and this is fucking builder, an example, right? Their job is building, sales, connecting, contracts, all that kind of stuff, right? If you're down every single day in the operations of the business, guess what you're not doing?
Yeah, you're not looking up.
And if you're too busy, guess what goes first? Operations, because you've got to do this, right? And that's where it turns into a shit show, right? Which is why, and it's not, again, it's like we say that working with you someone in that capacity is not, it's not a large investment, right? It's very, very affordable, and it gives you, like I said, like with the example before we gave about, the dentist part, you actually make money out of it because you're creating revenue, but you're doing other things to be able to do what you should be doing, right? So it's actually, it's not a cost. But people come and have this mindset, it's like, so people, this is getting you to be able to make more money because we're taking this off you, right? It's giving you more capacity to make more sales, to do more work, to do this. We're taking stress off you. We're going to not have your relationship fall apart because you're yelling at your wife because you're so stressed out, all that kind of stuff, right?
Yeah.
And that's what, it's, and I good know my background, but I've dealt with pretty big places. And this role, right, and especially when I was working in banking and that, you have your PwC, EY, Pitcher Partners, all that kind of stuff, right? They do advisory for all the high-end businesses because that's what works, right? You got a little bespoke advisory service that does similar stuff. The model doesn't change. It's still very successful, right? All the big players have someone like you in the place to be able to do the stuff, especially compliance stuff and everything like that. It's actually a very vital role.
Yeah. And I think also for the business owners, if they share that load, it allows them to also touch base and connect with their staff. So if they've got a staff group that they're not touching base with, and they probably know maybe some staff might not be performing, but they're not dealing with that because they haven't got time to deal with it. But it lets them touch base, or maybe it's just that guidance from them that the staff member needs because really they're just floating along. So I think that, just anything that can help lighten their load to run their business more efficiently is what we're wanting to do.
And as we say, it's about efficiencies. That's the thing. It's about, especially coming into these days where having these small wins like that, creating efficiencies in your business, and you can help out with that, are a very big, great advantage to people's success.
Yeah. And end of financial year, quite good timing. Who does a video on end of financial year?
So what are some of the other So what are some of the other issues you might see in a business that you guys would normally help with?
I think some of it's definitely that timing. So it's meeting those timelines of invoicing. The other thing is for large construction companies is retention. So it's quite big in the construction game where customers will withhold up to 10%, and then at the practical completion they'll get 5% back. And they actually hold 10% up to 5% of the contract, and then at practical completion they get 2.5% back, and then 12 months time you have to chase 2.5%. What happens is a lot of times for you to get that retention once you're at final completion can be a real nightmare for the client to handle and keep track of, but it can be a substantial amount of money for some clients. So it can be 50, hundreds of thousands of dollars at times that is. And so if we can keep track of that, touch base with the client, because often, if you let them go out to 3 or 4 years, they will wait for 3 or 4 years and then make you just jump hoops to actually try and get that money back. So I think knowing the different compliance levels for industries. So we have a range of customers and clients, from the sole trader, engineers, big commercial builders, and it's just working in with their little niche things that have trigger points so that they don't miss their deadlines, or that, we're putting that money aside for their pay-as-you-go and super and working with them to try and make sure that the cash flow, look, there are times they might still dip into it, but by the compliance date, they're back on track and able to meet their, liabilities as they fall due. So that's probably, one of the other things that we sort of look at is looking after those sort of retentions. And
Well, I think one of the biggest things is people need to talk about their business.
I think so.
Because one of these things, like one of the biggest problems in mental health these days is that we shut it down, we try and deal with the shit ourselves, and we try and manage it. And like you said, sometimes you're a part-time therapist, right?
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Some of the biggest things is just to sit there and talk with someone that's not your spouse, who's not your family, who's not in the day-to-day, can actually sit there with empathy and just you can talk honestly about your business, the workings, what's working, what's not working, the celebration, which we'll look at.
No.
What about your wins? Right?
Oh, no.
Yeah. And things that, that in itself can just be a very vital tool to sit down with somebody and have that conversation, talk about, outside of your immediate, especially if you've got a husband and wife working, it's like you're talking about business and talking about business. And sometimes you just need to have an outlet outside of that just to sit down with someone who knows the business and can just listen, not give advice sometimes. So sometimes you might just listen to them and they get it off their chest.
That is what happens. And they know that it's within the bubble. Like, I'm not going to ring their wife and go, oh, do you know you just called and he was just whinging about that going through? Or they might have, like, we do have clients that use the company accounts for personal use. So it's like trying to separate that. And obviously it's ideal that they don't use the company account for their personal use, but it happens in business. So, guiding them for that. But it's certainly a check-in, and you have to like to have a bit of a chat and have a listening ear. Sometimes they might call you and it's actually nothing to do with work. It's just sometimes also for them an offload. They go, can I just chat? And you go, yeah, sure. So I then wander out to the backyard, move away from the laptop, depending on where they're at and what the chat's about, and just make sure that we're listening. And sometimes, as sort of doing what you do too, that through that conversation, they might say something that you go, that's the actual thing that we can help with, or that, I know someone that can help you with that. So that, it might not be us that actually is the one that supports them or they work with, but we can guide them to the right person to make sure that they stay on track or get on track. So it just depends for each client, we just do whatever we do.
It's great. Well, Kerry, for those of you who are watching this or some of your clients that got there, they want to be able to tap into some of these servers like, and Kerry basically does a free, we call it discovery session. I don't know what you call it, whatever. Kind of thing.
Just
to sit there, to check in, right? To see what worked for you, because that's the thing is that these services she offers are very, very bespoke to your very individual needs. Yeah. Right. Everyone's different. They can just get in touch with yourself and just have a chat. There's no and with Kerry, there's no hard sales shit, right? She doesn't ram it down your throat. It's one of the things like, we can help you with this, we can do this, we can do this.
That's right.
And it's very reasonably priced as well too. And it gives you so much back on the other side, right? So so they just reach out to you, phone, email, text.
Yep. We're at sortyourbooks.com.au. They can see our site. Call me on the mobile. I don't know. Do you want me to say my mobile?
No, that's taking that off.
You can edit that.
All people scamming you on that stuff,
That's right. They can look me up. There's a number on there. They can reach me on email, kerry@sortyourbooks.com.au. I am KERI, blame the parents, but yeah.
It's a New Zealand thing.
Maybe.
I think, and from what I gather, you're going to do sort of like a regular once a month 30-minute discussion.
Yeah, we're planning to sort of open it up, do a monthly sort of check-in with that. Will open up to clients, or we'll invite, if they get on our mailing list, they can, get an invitation and they can just sit there and be active, or they can just watch.
You go through some
we're sort of just having some topics and stuff. So we're just going out to our existing client base to work out what the topic might be, and we'll start doing that in the next week or so.
Awesome.
That's the plan. But
Kerry,
no.
I think it's, hugely uh, beneficial for people to be able to, from running a business, you want to have a successful business and want to have, less stress, more time, more revenue, more sales, um, more freedom
Yeah.
per se. What you offer actually does, give people that, and it gives them confidence and certainty about where they're at. And that's the biggest thing as well too, is we help people be able to have a clear picture of where they're going.
Yeah.
And sometimes, and one last thing is, even if your business is not going well, right? If there's some things that you're embarrassed about, or some things you try and there's the hiding the guilt and shame of, oh
Mm.
shit, my business is going under. Kerry's one of the best people I know to speak to about that, because there is no judgment. There is
No.
no shame. There is no guilt. We've all been there. We've all
Mm.
screwed something up royally, right? And having to be able to have that chat with someone and just not carry yourself is also something that's quite vital. And there's always ways forward. There's always things you can do. There's
Mm.
always some plan forward that you can put in place to try and remedy a situation. And that's where having someone like you, like you said, you may not have
Yeah.
the answers at that point, but you'll
Yeah.
have other connectors that go, well, I've got this person, go and see this. Got this
That's
person,
right.
go and see that. And that's
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 right.
the beauty of what you've got as well too, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah, I think so. And in turn, I've got accountants and auditors and that reach out to me and go, "Oh, I've got
yeah,
this problem." So it's
yeah,
about, it's about sharing in your network.
yeah,
You never know who you're going to need or what you're going to do. And
correct.
yeah,
Yeah,
and for clients, it is about sometimes being vulnerable and having
yeah,
someone to reach out that might help. And and in that time, I might not be able to help them exactly, but I've got a client that's recently gone through a similar thing with administration and sold portions of his business and stuff like that. Still trading now, but he'll drop in, have a coffee. We just
yeah,
catch up, see where things are, and it's been hard, for
yeah,
businesses out there, and especially for some in construction, where the
yeah.
builders around them are going,
Bus everywhere.
about bust everywhere.
Yeah,
So and if they're small subbies, they can sometimes just work for that one builder. So
yeah,
it's a significant loss to quite a few people
yeah.
out there as the business changes. Mm.
Well,
Yeah. All
great
good.
chat. It's
Thank
been
you.
good. People have really get a hold with her. She offers like a service that's great. Not only that, she's an awesome person. That goes on top of it. They'll work
I
with
have
someone
a
like
great
Terry.
team too.
Yes,
Have a
yes,
good
yes. We know.
team.
Yes, you have a great team. Which
As you
is which
can
is
see,
which
not
is
taking
rare.
compliments well.
No, you're not. But that's about a sign of a good leader, actually. So,
Okay.
but reach out to her and you'll see more of her content. You're on her email list, you'll see more stuff. But this is something about to get to know you better and get to know
Yeah,
the person behind the emails, the person behind the business and what she's about. So thanks, Gary, for
thanks,
jumping
Greg.
on.
That's right. Thank you.